Hi! Welcome to part 2 of my review featuring the Alien role-playing game. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, please check out the playlist in the description below. This time we are going to take a look at the game modes and character creation. So, each player in this role-playing game, except one, takes the role of a player character, of course. You might be a space colonist, a space trucker, a marine, or something else. You decide what your player character thinks and feels, what they say and do, but not what happens to them. It's your job as a player to portray your player character and imagine yourself in their boots. Your player character is a person with feelings and dreams, just like yourself. Try to imagine how would you react if you were in their place. What would you do? The player characters are always the protagonists of the story. The game is about the player characters, their decisions, their story. In this role-playing game, there isn't a game master, there is a game mother, an obvious reference to the Alien Queen. So, the game mother portrays all the people and creatures the player characters meet during the game. Characters controlled by the game mother are called non-player characters, or NPCs, like any other role-playing game. The game is a conversation between the players and the game mother, back and forth, until a critical situation arises where the outcome is uncertain. Then it's time to break out the dice. It's the game mother's job to put obstacles in the path of the player characters and challenge them, forcing them to show what they are really made of. But it is not up to the game mother to decide what happens in the game, and above all, not how the story is supposed to end. The Alien role-playing game can be played in two distinct modes: cinematic play and campaign play. These modes are each designed to create a different experience. Even some rules of the game only apply to one of the two game modes. The two game modes are cinematic play and campaign play. A cinematic scenario emulates the dramatic arc of an Alien film. It is designed to be played in a single session. This game mode emphasizes high stakes and fast and brutal play. Conflict between player characters is likely, and they are not all expected to survive. In fact, most of your player characters probably won't live to see the end of the scenario. And campaign play is designed for longer, continuous play with the same cast of player characters over several game sessions. Perhaps even dozens of sessions. In campaign play, you create your own player characters, and it can also be brutal and deadly, but the chances for your player characters to survive are a bit higher. In campaign play, the narrative of the game is to a higher degree controlled by the game mother and the players themselves. You decide where to go and what to do based on who your player characters are and what they want. Now let's talk about key themes and the tools of the game. No matter if you play cinematic or campaign play, any game of Alien is based on three key themes. Most scenarios and campaigns contain a mix of these themes, but each scenario typically emphasizes one theme more than the others. You have space horror. The Alien experience is rooted in a pervasive darkness and tension, with a capacity to shock by tapping into our primal fears. Every desperate breath into the rebreather of your spacesuit may be your last. There's also sci-fi action. Whether it's on an intimate or sprawling scale, roller coaster action, often with bloody results, is essential to many Alien stories. This game includes robust mechanics designed for fast and brutal combat. There's also a sense of wonder. The Alien role-playing game lets you discover strange worlds and ancient, incomprehensible artifacts on a grand scale. Many Alien stories grapple with questions of humanity's creation, destiny, and its place in the universe. When it comes to the tools, the Alien role-playing game requires you to improvise as you play, but the game also provides a number of tools to help you create your story. So you are going to need character sheets, dice, pencils, pen, etc. But let's talk more about dice. In the Alien universe, nowhere is safe. Sooner or later, you will end up in situations where the outcome is uncertain, no matter how skilled you are. And it is during those times where you need to break out the dice. There are two types of custom 6-sided dice for this game, each available separately and included in the boxed starter set, but you can also use regular 6-sided dice. This game does not use custom dice. The dice that are official of the role-playing game are sold for aesthetic purposes. Each base dice and stress dice have symbols on the 6th side. Rolling the 6 usually means that an effect of some kind is triggered, for example, when succeeding at using a skill. Stress dice also have a symbol on the 6. Rolling this symbol triggers panic in your character. I will talk more about this in a future part of this review, but I just want to make it clear that you can use normal 6-sided dice for this role-playing game. The symbols are just there, like I said, for aesthetic purposes. Free League Publishing also sells specialized cards for the game to keep track of initiative, key gear, weapons, vehicles, but they are optional. Now let's talk about character creation. And I also want to make it clear that everything is well explained here. If you have never played a role-playing game before, you have the information that gets you started into the hobby, but they also give you some references, some recommendations on how to get more information about the hobby. So your player character is your most important asset in the Alien role-playing game, certainly. It is through them that you will experience glory, fear, horror, and a sense of relief. In many cinematic play scenarios, pre-generated player characters are already provided with the module, unless you want to handle things differently and you decide to create specific player characters for that particular cinematic experience. But when it comes to campaign play, it is customary to create the player characters, not tailor them for a specific scenario. Throughout the course of various scenarios, if the player characters are lucky enough to survive, they will develop, they will grow in their skills, in their potential. They even give you sample campaign frameworks. Maybe you want to play as space truckers, as colonial marines, or as frontier colonists. In a future part of this review, we are going to talk more about that. Now let me give you an overview of the character creation process, and I will also cover core concepts. First, you choose your career. Then you spend points on your attributes. Then you spend points on your skills. You choose your career talent. You choose your name. You decide on your appearance. You decide on your personal agenda. You choose your body and rival. You pick your gear and a signature item, and you roll for cash. When it comes to career, this is the first choice, and it determines your background and your role in the group. It influences your attributes, your skills, your starting gear, and what starting talent you can have. Career descriptions can feel stereotypical, and they are meant to. It is through the actions and personality of your player character that you will stand out from other less notorious individuals. When it comes to attributes, you have 4 attributes that indicate your physical and mental capabilities, each rated on a scale from 1 to 5. Your attributes are used when you roll dice to perform actions in the game, and they also indicate how much damage you can withstand before you become broken. We will talk more about that in a future part of the review. The attributes are strength, which is basically raw muscle power and brawn. There's agility, which has to do with body control, speed, and motor skills. There is wits, which has to do with sensory perception, intelligence, and sanity. And then there is empathy, which has to do with personal charisma, empathy, of course, and ability to manipulate others. So you distribute a number of points amongst your attributes, but when it comes to android characters, synthetic characters get a bonus to 2 attributes of their choice after the 14 attribute points have been assigned, and can reach a maximum score of 8 in the key attribute and 7 in another. However, androids have other drawbacks. We will talk about that later on. Key attributes are those that are determined by your career. When it comes to skills, they are the knowledge and abilities you have acquired during your life. They are important as they determine, along with your attributes, how effectively you can perform certain actions in the game. You can always roll for a skill even if you have no level in that skill. In that case, you only use the associated attribute for the skill in question, plus any modifiers from relevant gear. When it comes to starting skill levels, when you create your character for a campaign, you also distribute a number of points amongst your skills. When it comes to talents, they are tricks, moves, and minor abilities that give you a small edge. They are more specialized than skills and make your character unique. When creating a player character, you start with one talent, but if you survive the scenarios in campaign play, you can acquire more talents. Now let's talk more about playing as androids. Androids are an important part of the Alien role-playing game, and you can create an android player character. They are rare, however, so it is recommended that you talk it through with the rest of the group and the game mother to see if it disrupts the story. They can have any career and may be open about their nature or secretly pose as humans. Rules-wise, androids work a little differently from humans. They get some positive things, as mentioned earlier, a bonus to 2 of their attributes, but they can't push skill rolls. We will talk more about that in a future part. Androids don't suffer stress and thus don't have stress levels. For this reason, they don't need a signature item. Androids never make panic rolls. And androids suffer damage differently. We will talk about those details in a future part, of course. When it comes to stress, life in space is lethal. More often than you'd like, you'll find yourself under extreme pressure. In the game, this mounting tension is represented by your stress level. It usually starts at 0 and can increase by pushing dice rolls and by experiencing frightening or stressful situations. When it comes to health, even if you keep your nerves in check, chances are that sooner or later you're going to get hurt. This is tracked using your health score. You start the game with a number of health points equal to your strength score. Talents can modify your maximum health score as well. When it comes to suffering damage, when you take damage your health score is reduced. This will be further explained in future parts. If your health drops to 0, you are broken and suffer a critical injury. Now when it comes to more personal stuff, of course you choose the name for your character, your appearance, but there is also a personal agenda. You might be part of a team, but each individual player character in the group has an angle of their own, a personal agenda. This agenda works differently depending on the mode of play. For example, in the case of cinematic agendas, the player character's agendas are predetermined by the scenario. At the beginning of each of the 3 acts of the scenario, the game mother gives each player character a handout with a new agenda for the act. The agendas are hidden. You should not show them to other players or write them down on your character sheet. At the end of each act, the game mother evaluates the actions of each player character. If you took any specific actions to further your agenda during the act, you are awarded 1 story point. Now concerning campaign agendas, in campaign play, you can pick one of the suggested personal agendas listed with your career, or you can come up with a new agenda of your own. At the end of each game session, you discuss the agendas of all the player characters together. If you have taken some concrete action to further your agenda during the session, despite risk or cost, you gain bonus experience points. Now concerning bodies and rivals, the Alien role-playing game is about a small group of people facing unknown and horrifying dangers in the cold darkness of space. To survive, you need to find someone to trust, but also be careful who you turn your back to. In game terms, your player character can have 1 body and 1 rival amongst the other player characters. You can only have 1 of each. Your relationships are important for the game mother, as she can use them to create interesting situations in the game. In campaign play, you can choose 1 player character to be your buddy and another to be your rival. In cinematic scenarios, the choice is made for you. Let's talk more about this. In the Alien role-playing game, your player character can end up in direct confrontation with another player character. This is quite common in cinematic play, but less so in campaign play. In cinematic play, it's up to the game modder to call out when a player versus player situation escalates beyond the point of no return. When the game modder has called player versus player, the players involved play out the current conflict to its conclusion. After that, the player character who has turned traitor, so to speak, if they are still alive, become a non-player character and is from now on under the control of the game modder. The player in question is given a new player character to play as, if one is available. This means that you should be thinking very carefully before acting against the common interest of the group, even if you think it's in line with your agenda. It may cost you your player character. You are strongly recommended to wait until the third and final act of the scenario before taking such drastic actions. I think this is better, because otherwise you feel punished for playing within the personality, objectives, etc. of your player character. It shouldn't be like that. In campaign play, player versus player is less common, and any such situations are resolved in the group without specific rules. You'll just need to work out your differences if you are to continue as the same crew of player characters. And yes, this is logical, otherwise the campaign is not going to last. To survive the world of Alien, you need the right gear, so you need to properly equip yourself with weapons and other tools. When it comes to a cinematic scenario, this type of scenario determines what gear you start the game with. In campaign play, your career determines what gear you can choose from at the start of the game. If you get a weapon, you always get 2 full reloads to go with it. In addition to the items you choose, you are assumed to have a uniform or civilian clothing. You also get some cash. The career indicates how much. You also have a signature item. This is a small item that's not of much practical use, but has some sentimental value, and it says something about your player character. These signature items are usually tiny and thus don't encumber you. When it comes to vehicles and starships, in some cinematic scenarios, your player characters have a vehicle or even a spacecraft. Usually, vehicles and starships don't belong to one individual character. Instead, they are crewed by the entire group of player characters together. In campaign play, it's also possible for your group to begin the campaign with a vehicle or a ship, but this is quite specific. Now, concerning encumbrance, you can carry a number of regular sized items equal to double your strength rating without problems. A regular item is generally the size of a small bag and weighs no more than a few kilos. But you have details concerning heavy and light items, tiny items, what happens when you are over encumbered, you are less mobile, etc. You also have details on consumables. Lack of air, food, water, and electric power can be quite deadly. These 4 resources are called consumables. You don't need to track consumables at all times. In the confines of a functional spaceship, orbital station, or planet-side colony, you likely have the consumables you need. The game modder lets you know when the resources are scarce and it's time to start tracking them. You track each of the 4 consumables on your character sheet using a supply rating. A higher rating is better. At regular intervals, you need to make supply rolls. This means rolling a number of stress dice equal to the current supply rating, up to a maximum of 6 dice. For every 6 rolled, the supply rating is decreased by 1. When the supply rating reaches 0, you're out of the consumable, and you're entering a world of hurt. Usually, consumables are tracked individually, but they can also be tracked for the group as a whole, depending on the situation. You also have details on when you become encumbered by consumables. Now, one of the most rewarding things in campaign play is watching your character grow and develop. The harsh realities of life will change you. That's all you can be certain of in an uncertain world. You can develop your character in several different ways during the game. The things you learn during the game are measured in experience points. You receive XP at the end of each game session. You can obtain several experience points depending on your actions during the session. For example, Did you make a significant discovery or revelation? Did you earn any money? Did you make a panic roll? Did you risk your life for your buddy player character? Did you challenge or stand up to your rival player character? These are just some of the questions that will give you experience points. You can only get 1 experience point per question. You spend these experience points to increase skills, obtain new talents, and at the end of the session, you can change your buddies and your rivals as you see fit. And this concludes this part of the review for today. In the next part of this review, we are going to talk about careers. Thank you for watching this part of the review. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know. And thank you so much to those of you that have been supporting the channel by sending drive-thru RPG gift certificates. If anyone else wants to further support the channel, the information on how to do that will be in the description below. Once again, thank you, and see you later.